You know how everyone keeps talking about how the industry is shifting, but they never really tell you what it means? On today's episode of the Nourished CEO, I am going to get into exactly what that means and how it's going to impact you in 2026. Because the truth is that this year is going to look very different for health and wellness entrepreneurs online. And if you're still trying to use the same old strategies that worked even 2 or 3 years ago, you're going to feel like you're running uphill in the wrong direction. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic. I'm saying it because I've lived it in my own life, both as a business owner and as a person who consumes wellness services. And I'm watching it in my clients' own businesses. And honestly, the writing is on the wall. 2026 is going to be like no year that we've ever seen. A lot of people are opting out of traditional healthcare entirely. And even if they're not, they're feeling overwhelmed. They're feeling more discerning about where they spend their money. And I don't know about you, but most of us are feeling exhausted by all the noise and all the BS that we're seeing online. They're done with cookie cutter protocols and seeing practitioners who don't listen to what their actual problems are. And they're absolutely not paying premium prices for online courses that feel like more work, more sessions, or just more information that they could have just Googled. So, today I'm breaking down the 10 biggest trends that I'm predicting are going to shape your business in 2026. These are ideas that come directly from what I'm seeing in the online business space, not from AI or some other generic marketing prediction. These are the shifts that are going to impact how your ideal clients are buying, who they trust, how they choose their practitioners and coaches to work with, and what offers they're actually willing to invest in, regardless of the price point. You're going to need to pay attention to these if you actually want your business to thrive next year and not be constantly chasing your tail. Now, here is the good news. If you are willing to simplify, clarify, personalize, and actually take a stand for the transformation your offers provide, then 2026 could actually be your most aligned and profitable yet. So, let's get into it. Here are the top 10 trends that every health and wellness entrepreneur needs to understand and adapt to their business heading into 2026. So, the first one that I'm going to talk about is one that has impacted me directly, and I'm seeing so many people talking about it, especially over on Threads, which Threads is one of these platforms that I'm actually wanting to get more involved with in 2026. It is a platform that historically I have just kind of shown up and randomly talked while I'm like breastfeeding my kid or in between calls. And I want to take it more seriously in 2026 as an actual platform for reaching potential customers. That said, it's a very interesting platform that can show you a lot of what's going on in a conversational way in people's heads and the people that are coming online to talk about it. It gives you a lot of insight into what people are thinking about and what they're spending money on. So, one of the things I'm seeing that I think will make a huge impact on, especially the health and wellness space in 2026, is what I'm calling the great opt out. This is the opting out of traditional health insurance, especially in the United States. Honestly, it might be the only country that's really experiencing this. But if you pay for your own health insurance, or even if you have a spouse that maybe has the insurance for you, or maybe you have a full time job right now that's covering your benefits for the most part, you might be seeing that your monthly premium is going up. And for some people, it's going up like 5 times what they would have paid in years past. So, this is something that a lot of people are, first of all, freaking out about. Second of all, they're looking for alternatives. And I bring this up because me and my family actually we have decided as looking for a way to steward our finances as well as possible. We've actually decided that we're going to opt out of traditional health insurance and experiment with using what's called a health share. Now, I'm not going to get into all details about why we're doing this and what the costs are and what company we picked. I'll probably save that for a different episode. But basically, we were looking at the increase of our premiums for 2026 compared to what they were when we signed up for this plan at the end of 2024. And I could not believe the amount that it was going up just to have the health insurance. So we have a high deductible plan. A high deductible plan is where you actually have a lot of money you have to spend on your health before the insurance even kicks in. And on top of that high deductible, we were going to have to pay somewhere around $1,600 a month just to have the plan. and then have to spend another minimum almost $9,000 per individual in our family to then actually be allowed to use the insurance to cover any health issues for next year. So we did the math on this and we were like, wow, this means that we are going to spend over $30,000 before we even get healthcare coverage in anything that we would need healthcare for next year. And when I'm not pregnant and having a baby, and when my husband doesn't have like a major surgery, which he hasn't had a surgery for a condition that he has since I think like 2022, if we're not doing one of those things, our family is really not using health insurance. I mean, I take my kids to the pediatrician, so I guess technically that's filing under health insurance, but we are not people who use prescriptions on a regular basis. We're not people who have chronic issues that need intervention. If I wasn't seeing a OBGYN on a regular basis with my last pregnancy, I haven't been to a primary care doctor in years. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing, but it is something where we were looking at the nuts and bolts of the investment for having health insurance next year, and we were like, there has to be a better way. And our premiums are not even as high as some people's that I've seen online. I've heard people talking about their monthly premiums going up to like $2,500 a month, $3,000 a month. That's like $30,000 to $40,000 spent just to have health insurance. That is a lot. And if you're somebody who doesn't have a subsidy like me, if you're in that like upper middle class zone where you make too much money to have a subsidy, but you don't make enough money for it to not matter, people like us are looking to opt out of this insurance model and move into a model that feels like it's more appropriate for the kind of healthcare that we want and for the kind of investments we want to make in protecting our health and our family's health. So I'm not the only one making the switch. It's something that a lot of people are talking about. And again, I'm seeing a lot of chatter about this on Threads. And what this means for you as a health expert is that if you take insurance or if you're in a health space that maybe a lot of people would traditionally use their insurance to cover sessions or cover services for, you might actually see a big increase of people who no longer are using traditional insurance and thus do not care if you're a cash pay business. For us and my family, I mean, I have enough health expertise that we generally don't have to invest in a more like just complementary type of healthcare support. But we are actually looking at joining a concierge primary care physician, which means we're going to pay a monthly membership to have unlimited sessions with the doctor, to have wholesale lab pricing, wholesale imaging. So the MRIs that my husband used to have to get that we would pay $2,000 to $3,000 for using our health insurance, we can now pay $300 for with this concierge doctor, and it's only $190 a month for us. So we can actually, for the cost of a normal MRI for my husband, we're going to be able to have a full year of concierge medical care and be able to see the doctor whenever, not only myself and my husband, but my kids. And it's something that for me just feels like the right move for my family. And I think it's going to be something that a lot of people are going to start looking for, where they want that high touch experience. They want to feel like they have access to their healthcare provider. They want their healthcare provider to really know them and to actually have a relationship with them. And they're going to be willing to pay out of pocket to access that. So I really think for a lot of people, it's not that insurance is going to go away. And it's not that if you take insurance, you're suddenly not going to have people that want to use their insurance for you. But I do think there's going to be a big increase of people who are in that upper middle class income zone where you've basically made too much money to qualify for subsidies, and now paying out of pocket for health insurance is no longer feeling like a good use of your money. If you're somebody who is generally healthy but isn't necessarily using the health insurance, or even if you're not even generally healthy but you don't have anything that the insurance is covering that's really benefiting you in any substantial way. Because we all know that a lot of times health insurance won't even cover the kind of testing, the kind of protocols, the kind of approaches to improving our health that if you're in the functional space, if you're in the integrative space, you know that the stuff you do actually helps people, but insurance isn't covering it anyway. So for a lot of people, they're looking for quality care. They're looking for a practitioner who actually knows them, and they do not care as much if it's covered by insurance because a lot of people are opting out. So I am really interested to see how this changes the healthcare landscape in general. I mean, I have no idea what the government's going to do as far as preventing everybody from opting out of health insurance if they're the ones that are footing the bill like my family is. All of that to say, I'm not concerned about as far as like the government can do what the government's going to do. I'm going to take care of my family, take care of myself, put our money where I think it makes the most sense. And for us, that is actually spending cash on a provider who we feel like is really going to provide us the care that we're looking for. So that's something that I would definitely be paying attention to. If you're somebody who has a cash-based business, I think it's actually a good thing. More people are going to be looking to spend cash, not afraid to spend cash. They're not even going to have health insurance to cover your services, so they're not going to worry about it as much. And it's going to be something that paying cash for healthcare in the United States specifically is going to feel much more normal for people that have a little extra money to spend on themselves, on their health, on their goals, and they really are prioritizing quality over cost. Now, the second piece here that goes along with this, and I honestly feel like this has been something that's been happening for a while, but is really going to take off next year, is the death of session by session health care. I say session by session to describe the way that a lot of us experience healthcare. We go in, we have 15 minutes if we're lucky with a provider. They look at our chart, they talk to the nurse, and I'm not saying this to denigrate doctors. I think, they have a very difficult job, but you're going in and you're really not getting a ton of attention, a ton of personalization, a ton of support. They're kind of just saying, well, maybe you should do XYZ and then sending you out the door. Now, even if you are a more supportive practitioner, like a dietitian or a physical therapist or somebody who's really like spending a lot of time with their client, we all know there's only so much you can do in a single session. And I used to try to pack so much into my sessions when I first started as a baby dietitian. And I felt like I was trying to give people a ton of value. And what I was really doing was fire hosing them and overwhelming them. So people are not as interested in in buying sessions as a consumer of health products, healthcare, health services. They're just over this idea that they're buying your time. They don't want to buy your time. They don't care about how much time they get with you. What they care about is whether or not you can actually help them and if the way that you're helping them is effective. People are tired, they're busy, they got kids, they got their job, they got a lot of stuff going on. And you giving them a ton of one-on-one time to like pack value into your offer is not necessarily what these people are thinking when it comes to what's worth spending their money on. What they actually want is a solution to their core health problem or their core problem in general that actually works, it actually fits into their life, it creates the results that they want, and it doesn't require them to sacrifice so much of what they do on a day-to-day basis in order to make it work for them. Now, like I said, if you're someone like me who I run a business, I have 2 kids, I have like my husband's at home, but he's working in the business too. We're running around like chickens with our head cut off, not sleeping a lot at night. I don't necessarily want to have a health service that requires me to do a bunch of one-on-one sessions. Like I would have to get childcare to have a health or a one-on-one session with a health expert. And if I could get that same value from going into a portal and watching a video in the portal at like 9 o'clock at night when my kids are asleep, I would much rather do that than have to figure out a schedule that works for me and my husband and is at a time where my kids are either sleeping or in childcare or with grandma. Like anything that would get me to a place where I have like time to focus on my health appointment, that is so much effort for me to get the support I might be looking for if I had a health condition. There's a lot of people like that out there, right? So if you're somebody who wants to make more money as a health expert, packing your offers full of one-on-one access, especially call access, is actually not going to be as valuable for people as those additional ways of supporting people are. Things like messaging access, things like online educational portal, things like tools that you've created to help them implement. Anything that you can do to make it easier for them to get the result, that is what's going to create value and not just how many sessions they get with you. This is exactly what I teach my Nurse Business Accelerator clients, which is how to actually package your expertise as a health expert, a coach, a practitioner, somebody who helps people transform their lives, being able to package that into something that actually delivers a transformation and isn't just a bunch of sessions. That is what we do in the NBA as one of the core things we help our clients with. And I really do think that this is going to be even more important in 2026, that you have an offer that actually is transformation focused and not just, session by session, or here's my 6-pack of sessions that you're going to get with me, because ultimately people do not care about how much time they get with you. And honestly, if you keep hanging on to session by session pricing, or if you take insurance and that's the only thing you do is do those insurance visits, you're going to be missing out on a lot of income potential and honestly making things a lot harder for yourself to be able to help your clients than if you were to adapt to this program-based model. All right, trend number 3 that I am forecasting for 2026 is that people are so overwhelmed and they do not want to be bombarded with really long, detailed, educational heavy content, especially inside of a paid offer. This is something that a lot of people make the mistake of. They think, okay, I want to create something valuable. And even if they don't pack it with one-on-one sessions, if it's a course or a group program or something where they're like, I want to give value, I want to give them everything I can give them inside of a program. If they open up your program and there's like 85 videos they have to watch to even get through the core content to get a result inside of your program, their eyes are going to go back to the back of their head. They do not want to be sitting there like they're in a college course, having to go through hours and hours and hours of content to just get started on solving the problem. They don't want to have to read through 100-page PDF ebooks. They don't want to have to sign up and attend twice a week group calls and attend all of them to get the value. They want to be able to get in and get out and get what they need. And it's actually your job as the expert to simplify things to what I call the minimum viable product. It's not really my term, but it's a term in the industry. And this is what I call the way that we help our clients design their offers, because we actually want to give them the least amount necessary for them to get the results that they want. We don't want them to come into our offers and feel like they've signed up for a second full-time job to just get through the content. We really want to be mindful about how can we reduce the volume of information, of education, of just content that they have to consume to be able to make a change in their life and to see the result that they want. So I really feel like this less is better mentality is 100% where the market is headed. And it's not that you can't have resources, it's not that you can't have bonuses, but we don't wanna be positioning our offer as this, like, giant, like, bucket of just content, 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 bonuses, videos, handouts, all this stuff. Like, people think that's where the value comes from because they've put so much time and energy into creating all of those resources for people. And ultimately, if you don't get on top of that, if you don't pay attention and curate and cull some of the stuff that you've created for your offer, something that I am doing myself with the offers that we have, it can be actually detrimental to the people coming into your program. They won't be able to get through it. They'll get overwhelmed. They'll just let it sit in their inbox. They'll let it sit and collect digital dust. They won't get the result that they wanted. They won't re-sign for a continuity offer. They won't give you a testimonial. And you're not only going to have impacts on your business as far as reduced sales, but you're just not going to enjoy the work that you're doing as much anymore because you're going to feel like I'm putting all of this effort into serving my clients and people are not getting results. And nobody wants to feel that way, right? So we actually want to figure out how can we reduce how much we're giving to our people and really be very intentional about what we're delivering so that they can actually get the best possible results without all this extra work that's not probably necessary. And then they're getting great transformations. They're staying longer. So you have an increased lifetime customer value. They're referring more people. They're sharing testimonials, all the things that we want as business owners. We're actually going to get more of that if we don't bombard them with content inside of our offers. And we also don't want to do that in our sales conversations because if somebody's hearing, oh my gosh, there's going to be so much work involved with joining this program, they are going to panic and run and not pay you, especially if it's a higher ticket offer, because all they're hearing is work, 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 work. If you are just like telling them all the things that your program includes. So one of the things you really want to be doing for 2026 is learning how to simplify, streamline, condense the way that not only you deliver your offer, but also the way that you talk about it, the way that you market it. And that is something that we help our clients with because a lot of times it's very difficult when you are the one that created it to really see that you're bombarding people with information because you just know, oh my gosh, this stuff is so valuable. I put so much work into it. And when you can bring it to an objective expert like me and my team, we can actually help you pare it down to the stuff that's going to be the most valuable for people to even know about before they join. And then to make sure that the way you've constructed your offer is designed so that they get the best possible results with the least amount of work, which is actually what everybody wants. Okay, trend number 4 is really more about building trust as a health expert with the people that you want to work with. There is a huge breakdown of trust in healthcare in general, and it doesn't matter what part of healthcare you're in. This is conventional medical care, this is functional and integrative medicine. Like, there is just so many things that people are so distrustful of right now. They're jaded. They're like, I've already done this. It didn't work. I spent a lot of money. This person just put me on 8,000 supplements, or they just put me on this drug and they didn't even listen to me. So people have had a lot of bad experiences, whether it's in person, online, conventional, or alternative. People are just tired of feeling like they're getting the same protocol, the same basic advice, the same, cookie cutter strategy that may or may not even apply to them. I was interviewing a client recently who works with women that have PCOS, and she was telling me that there's doctors out there telling women with PCOS that when they feel like they're having low blood sugar, because blood sugar dysregulation tends to be a thing when you have PCOS, if you have a low blood sugar episode, that you should have some candy to help get your blood sugar up. So I hate that that's still happening in 2025, 2026 with like people who are supposed to be health experts. But that's the kind of stuff where somebody goes to a healthcare provider and gets told that kind of nonsense information or something that's totally not appropriate for their circumstances, their situation. People are tired of it. They're tired of not being listened to. They're tired of being talked at. They're tired of being dismissed when they have real concerns. I even saw somebody share recently that she went to her doctor to ask for some labs to be drawn to just check on her general state of health, to do more of like a preventative approach. And he basically just condescended her and said, I'm not going to waste like the government's money getting you preventative lab testing. So no, I'm not doing it. And she was like, all right, I guess I'm going to go somewhere else to get those labs drawn. But people are just so sick of being talked to like that and treated like they don't know any better about their health, that they don't deserve high quality care, that, their opinion about how to approach their goals and their situation is irrelevant. It's just, I think it's really becoming a big problem in the healthcare world in general, where experts are really not listening to people and they're really just like bulldozing people's desires and their goals and their needs and their challenges. And this is how you're going to differentiate yourself as an online health expert. You are going to show people that you listen, that you care, that you actually want to create a plan and an approach that works for them, both in their unique needs as well as their circumstances. And this opportunity to personalize things is going to be a key differentiator for 2026. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have a standard process, standard things that you deliver to clients to help facilitate their results, because ultimately there's going to be a lot of overlap between people. If you pick a clear and specific niche, there's going to be certain things that everybody's going to need to do. So systematizing those is going to be really helpful. But if you want to actually attract higher paying clients and get easier sales and get better results for people, you really want to also personalize and individualize your approach on top of the things that you're delivering in a more systematized way. Listening to people also really helps with your marketing. This is something that when I'm working, especially with my one-on-one clients, we go so deep into the words that their ideal clients and their paying clients are actually saying to inform what they're putting out in their content, what they're putting into their sales funnel, how they're constructing their offer, all of those things. And so the better you can get at listening to your actual ideal paying clients, the better you're going to get at marketing and the better you're going to be at delivering a service that's actually high value for people and gets them to stay and gets them to refer their friends and family to you. So the way I actually like doing this is with a hybrid offer. A hybrid offer is a combination of something scalable, like a group program or a course, or just anything that's more of like this one-to-many strategy, and pairing that with a couple of one-on-one sessions, or maybe it's a lot of one-on-one sessions. You could actually do as many one-on-one sessions as you want. But you're basically pairing the scalable deliverables with a one-on-one support element that allows you to customize things for people. All of our offers pretty much that include any sort of coaching are hybrid offers because we do actually provide one-on-one time with a coach inside of our NBA program. And then, of course, if somebody's working with me one-on-one, they get access to any resources that I have. So this is something where hybrid offers are the best way to create an outcome-driven program while also allowing for that personalization. So I really think that in 2026, that is going to be one of the offers that sells the best, especially as a health expert where your goal is to transfer your knowledge to somebody else so that they can implement lifestyle changes and actually get an outcome. You're not so much of a done for you service provider when you are a coach or a practitioner. And so learning how to do this effectively and creating an offer that gives the best of both worlds where it's transformation focused, standardized processes, but then also has that personalization element, that is what's going to help you succeed in 2026. Okay. Trend number 5 is creating an offer that allows for on-demand expert access. I was mentioning this before that having a bunch of sessions is not necessarily something that high-paying buyers are going to be interested in. If you make a good amount of money, and part of the reason you make good money is because you have a job or you run a business, you do not likely have a lot of time to be spending on sessions, and you're not gonna have time to be Googling stuff either, or even running stuff through ChatGPT. Like, if you are somebody who cares about your health, cares about your relationships, cares about how you perform at work, cares about the things that really affect your quality of life, and you have money but not a lot of time, you don't want an offer to be super time intensive. Now, what we do like, people like me, and I was mentioning this before with my concierge primary care physician that we are signing up for, I like knowing that if I need something from the person who is advising me, that I can actually reach out to them and get a response in a reasonable amount of time. Now, I'm not saying they have to respond to me immediately, but in the span of a couple of days, that's something that can be super helpful. If it's an emergency, then obviously there's a different story there. But if it's something that I'm just looking for some support around, just knowing that I can go send a message and expect a reply in the next day or two is something that is very valuable for me. And it's also the way that we construct our offers, whether it's our NBA program or the way that I serve my clients one-on-one. There's always an opportunity to get somebody's support within 1 to 2 business days at the most. I actually usually respond a lot faster than that to my one-on-one clients. We use Voxer to support my one-on-one clients in between calls, but being able to get that asynchronous support, whether it's voice notes, messaging access, quick check-ins, things where you can send a message and get a response back. For me, honestly, that tends to be almost more valuable than having calls. Now, I'm not saying I don't like to have a call. I like to have that check-in call to adjust and adapt and talk through things. I am a verbal processor, but I don't want to have a call every time I need some support with something. So having that asynchronous support is actually a huge value add for someone like me. And I do think that that's going to be something that is really compelling as part of an offer when you're selling to people who have money to spend and don't have a lot of time to necessarily get on calls. So if you can layer in some asynchronous support and asynchronous access, asynchronous just means like there's no appointment time, right? So somebody could send you a message and you could message them back. They don't have to book a call to actually talk to you. If you can layer that into your offer, that's going to make your offer so much more attractive for people who earn money with a job. Maybe they're super busy. Maybe they have like a 2-income household and maybe they have kids. Like there's just a lot going on. And the more you can support them without them needing to book an appointment, the more attractive your offers are going to be. This can be done in a one-on-one format or a group format. So it doesn't have to be a situation where you're one-on-one supporting every single person you work with. And it also doesn't have to be you. It could be coaches that you've hired. I know a lot of my clients have hired other dietitians, other health coaches, people who can support their clients without it having to be them so that the person can still get great support and support that's aligned with what they're learning about how to improve their health. But it's not that they're going to Google to try to get the answer because there's nobody to talk to about what they should do for their unique circumstances. So I really think that these asynchronous support programs are going to be even more attractive for busy, high earning people who have the money to spend on their health and really just want the best quality support in the most convenient way. Now I want to switch gears. I've talked a lot about offers program delivery, program design, I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about marketing. And this is trend number 6 that I've heard a lot of people talking about. And it gets me excited because I have been in the online space creating content since 2011. So as of the time of this recording, I have been creating content online for 14 years and moving into year 15, which is kind of crazy. The reason why this is exciting to me is because I got into my business before social media was a thing, before short form content was a thing, before Instagram even had videos. It was all written or maybe podcasting or maybe YouTube videos, but everything was long form when I first started my business. We swung really hard in the direction of short form videos, TikTok, Reels, that kind of thing. Even YouTube has shorts on it now. And for a long time, I feel like that was really the main way that people were getting exposed to potential coaches, potential service providers, health experts, that kind of thing. And now I feel like we're actually swinging back in the other direction. Part of the reason for this is because social media, with the advent of all of this AI stuff, AI videos, AI written content, social media has become such a dumpster fire of AI generated nonsense that I don't know about you, but for me, logging in and scrolling and seeing all this garbage on my feed makes me not even want to be in the app. Carousels that all look the same, videos that don't feel like it's actually a human doing it, things where it's like you can actually tell that the person straight up used ChatGPT to write their content. Like you just get into these apps and you're like, this feels gross to be here. I'm not saying that Instagram is dead. I'm not saying short form is dead. It's very rare that I would ever say something is dead. But what I am saying is that I think people are a little bit like burnt out from the short form stuff. And it's a lot easier to create crappy short form content than it is to create crappy long form. I'm just going to put it out there. Long form content, whether that's videos, podcasts, blogging, that is not an easy type of content to put out. And you can't get away with putting out garbage in those mediums. So if somebody really is interested in getting a problem solved, in learning a skill, in learning how to improve their health, their wealth, their relationships, all those big things that people want to spend money on to make better, they're probably not going to social media to learn how to do that. When someone actually wants to solve a problem, where do they go? They go to Google, right? Like you go to Google, you ask a question, maybe you do ChatGPT, but you a lot of times will go to a search engine and ask a question and see where can I find some good information about this. And yes, the search engines can show you short form content, but it's typically sending you to websites and YouTube videos. Long form. And long form content is the thing that things like Google and ChatGPT and all the things that are actually helping people search for answers, that is where those tools are sending them when it comes to getting the best quality content. So this is where people can hear not only good quality information, but they can hear your real perspective and actually get the depth of expertise that you have to bring to the table and not just like see a 7-second voiceover reel that's like, a hook and a call to action, right? Like, and I say that as somebody who teaches certain shorter form content strategies to help people get attention online. But I really think for most people who are looking to solve a problem, like they're not on Instagram to solve a problem. They're on Instagram to be entertained. They're there to scroll. They're there to send their husband some memes. That's what I'm doing half the time on social media. Yes, I get some value there. And yes, I connect with potential service providers there, coaches, experts, that kind of thing. But I'm not going to Instagram because I want a problem solved. I'm going to Instagram to mostly be entertained and to just kind of like maybe get a little bit of learning. But if I'm actually dealing with a significant problem, I am going straight to Google or straight to ChatGPT. And now ChatGPT can actually reference websites and send you to those references to learn more about a particular question. Same thing with like the Google AI searches. It'll actually show you the link reference and then you can click that link to go learn more. So I am really getting back into long form. I mean, I've never really been out of long form necessarily, but I'm taking it way more seriously and even kind of like lessening my focus on social media, Instagram, that kind of thing, because I really just don't think social media is the place that my ideal clients who are serious about solving their problem, I don't really feel like that's where they're hanging out to get the actual information and perspective that they want and to be able to connect with somebody that they actually want to work with. So I feel like Instagram is a tool. I'm not saying you should get rid of it. We have an interview coming up with a client who's doing really well on Instagram, literally just posting text-based carousels off of Canva, doing amazingly well with that. So there's nothing wrong with having social media, short form content. Please don't hear me and think I'm saying to get off of social media if it's a part of your business. But if you're not using some form of long form content production, I really feel like you're missing a huge opportunity to reach more people, to connect with your ideal clients, and to actually demonstrate your expertise in a form or in a format, I should say, that is very difficult to replicate with AI. And I really think can very much set you apart from your competitors who might be overly relying on AI to create their stuff. All right. Trend number 7. And this has been a trend that's been going for a while, so this isn't necessarily new, but I think more than ever, buyers are way more discerning about who they spend their money with for a variety of reasons. One, inflation, cost of living's going up. People do not have as much disposable income as they might have had a few years ago. And so it's not that they're not spending money, it's just that they're being more discerning about where they're spending their money. Now, I also think that with all of this AI stuff, it's almost easier for people to pretend to have expertise about something that they don't really have expertise about. And that's why I feel like for a lot of people, they're being way more thoughtful and actually spending more time in the research phase when they're deciding on who they want to invest their money with. Because before AI, it was actually really hard to put out decent content that showed your expertise. Now with AI, anybody can just go into ChatGPT and ask it to put something out about a particular topic. Who knows if it's right, but it sounds smart and they'll put it out there. And it's something that creates a lot of distrust in the space, especially around health challenges, relationship challenges, things like that, where they really want to know that they're talking to somebody who knows what they're doing and knows what they're talking about. They also want to know what makes your approach and your program different from the 10 other programs that they've gotten advertised about, the 10 other programs that maybe they've already invested in. Hopefully they haven't done 10 programs, but they're probably already seeing a lot of other opportunities to work with other coaches, other experts, get other services for the problem that they have, and they want to know why they should pick you. And I think it's a relevant question. I feel like people shy away from this question of like, why should somebody pick you over anybody else? And I actually feel like that's a really important question that we all need to be asking ourselves, because it really is like reasonable to think, well, there's 5 other people, 10 other people, 100 other people that they could work with. What is it about me and the way I do things that actually makes this a good fit for them and the best place for them to spend their money? I ask myself that question all the time because I always want to know, why would somebody pick me when they could work with, Coach Joe that is running a gazillion-dollar business and has 8,000 testimonials and all that. Like, I honestly need to be really clear about what sets me apart and why somebody would pick me over somebody who's got that really aggressive, flashy marketing, which maybe could be one of the reasons why people pick me. But all of that to say, I think it's a really important question to ask. Why would somebody work with you over anybody else? And answering that question will then help you actually get the right clients in your door. It'll help you know what to talk about in your content. It'll help you know what kind of objections you need to cover. And it is something where people just want to know what's the thing that's going to make your thing different than anything else that they've already tried. And so I don't think we need to shy away from answering that question. I don't think we need to be afraid to self-reflect about, how am I showing up online? How am I positioning my offer? How am I speaking to my ideal client that shows them that I am a good provider to invest their money in? And the more you can do that and the more you can actually address those concerns head on, the more your marketing is going to be effective and the more people are actually going to trust you. So yes, we have a trust recession happening right now, but honestly, I think anyone who's willing to be honest about why somebody should work with them and getting really clear about that and being bold and sharing it, you're going to do just fine, because people will trust somebody who's willing to actually ask that question of themselves versus just making it seem like, well, you should just work with me because I'm an expert. Like, nobody cares anymore if you're a quote expert. They want to know why they should pick you over any of the other experts that they could be working with that have the exact same credentials as you. All right. Number 8 on the trend list is AI. Now, I need to do a whole episode on AI again because I feel like it changes all the time. but people have a lot of opinions about AI. And I've had to get into some conversations recently about using AI ethically and appropriately, because as somebody who has an insane amount of stuff going on in my personal life, half the time I have like a baby on my boob or a toddler that needs my attention, or I'm trying to bounce between making dinner and responding to client emails. I use ChatGPT to help me produce content. Now, I don't let it ideate for me. I don't let it come up with my perspective. I don't let it create the content without it coming from my initial thought process. But if I want a voice memo and email that then turns into a concisely written, easy to understand, kind and what's the word? Warm email, that's going to be so much easier for me than having to think about doing all of that and typing it up myself. So I know that there's a lot of people out there that are very judgy about using things like ChatGPT to respond to emails or to create content or whatever. I just think at this point, if you're not using AI and you're not embracing that, you're going to be in a lot of trouble as a business owner. And you're also making things a lot harder for yourself. Again, I don't see anything wrong with voice memoing my Chat GPT app and then getting it to construct a written response and then giving that written response that's literally based on what I just said to make sure that it's done in a clear and cohesive and concise way so that my whoever's receiving the message actually understands what I'm trying to say, and it's not, there's no like weird tone that they get confused by or anything like that. We all know that there's times where we've said something in text form that somebody misinterpreted and we were like, I did not mean it that way. So running things through ChatGPT can really be helpful to make sure that you're putting across the message that you want, but it has to come from you. So I use ChatGPT all the time. Ironically, I actually used ChatGPT to prepare for this episode, but maybe not in the way that you would think. So I did not ask ChatGPT what it thought the trends were going to be. I actually asked ChatGPT to ask me questions to help me come up with my own ideas about what the trends for 2026 were going to be. And I asked it to go one question at a time to pull out all of the information it needed from my brain in order to come up with this list of the top 10 trends. And every time it asked a question, I voice memoed just like train of thought, stream of consciousness, like what do I think about this particular topic? And it kept asking me question. And then it finally got to a place where it was like, okay, last question. Then I think I have all of the things that you want to share. And then once I answered that last question, it gave me the list of the 10 things it recommended that I talk about on this episode based on everything I had said. And then I used it to then create notes for this episode. And I asked it to give as much of the details that I had said from my own mouth, my own words, so that I had this nice outline that I could go from when I was recording this episode to make sure I talked about everything I wanted to talk about. So that's the way I use ChatGPT. I freaking love it. As somebody who is sleep deprived, probably heading into perimenopause soon, postpartum, like all the things, managing two little kids, my brain cannot function at the level that it used to function. And I am so grateful to have tools like ChatGPT to help me consolidate my thoughts, organize my thoughts, communicate effectively. And I am very, very intentional about training my ChatGPT to sound like me, to reflect the way that I talk, to use my own words. And again, I'm here talking to you on this podcast. It's my words, it's my brain. But ChatGPT helped me come up with a consolidated list of what I wanted to share with you. And so I am such a big proponent of using these tools in an ethical and effective and efficient way to make running your business easier, to make it easier for you to help people, for it to be easier for you to communicate. And if you're not learning how to use these tools, I really think you're going to be at a disadvantage if you aren't already. So my suggestion is embrace AI. It's here whether you want it to be or not. That doesn't mean you should be putting out straight ChatGPT nonsense that you didn't even proofread or inspire. But I use it in so many different ways to help consolidate and broadcast my perspective. I am just really, really grateful that it exists, especially at a time where my brain is at one of the highest mental loads I've ever had to deal with. So if you can use AI thoughtfully, ethically, effectively, if you can really make sure it's using your thoughts and your perspectives and your tone when it's creating content, you're going to have such a better time than if you are just doing everything manually and acting like AI is like going to destroy the world. Because I don't know, maybe it will. Maybe we're heading into one of the Terminator movies at this point. But I really think it's going to be something that for most people needs to be part of their business strategy if they want to be able to compete with everybody else that's using AI to make their lives a lot easier. All right, trend number 9. This is one that has come up a lot with my one-on-one coaching calls lately, and that is the idea that hyper-specificity is what's going to sell in 2026. Niching is really not optional anymore if you want to have an online business where people pay you cash. I know there's other business models that don't require niching, and I'm not saying that every single business out there that exists has to have a niche. But if you want to be able to show up and put out content and stand out and get clients online and not drive yourself crazy and not have to be on every platform and not have to reinvent the wheel for every single person you work with, niching is the way to go. And I say this as somebody who has really struggled to niche in the past. Sometimes I still struggle to feel like I've really nailed what is the essence of what I do. But this is going to be more important than ever for you to have that level of specificity that almost feels uncomfortable to be able to speak to your ideal client in a way that grabs their attention and really pulls them in because they feel like you know them so well. So if you're trying to help everyone with everything, or if you're like really broad with the topic that you work on, it's going to be a recipe for burnout and confusion for both you and your audience. You're not going to know what to talk about when you go to create content. You're not going to have the language that's so specific that it creates that emotional response for the people you want to work with. You're not going to know what kind of opportunities you should say yes to, should say no to. You're not going to know how to create that minimum viable product I was talking about before to make an offer that's really as effective and concise as possible. And everything in your business is going to be harder if you try to do everything for everyone. So I really feel like specificity is the shortcut to making sales in 2026. And that's something that when I work with my clients, whether it's in our Nourished Business Accelerator program or if it's one-on-one or anything in between, even our done for you funnel building services, we just go so hardcore with specificity in the messaging because that is what's working in 2025 and will be working in 2026. This, as a side note, is especially important if you're running ads because Facebook ads have just totally changed in the last few months. It is wild how different they are. And what's working now to be able to have ads that actually bring you clients is like night and day different than it was even 6 months ago. So what you need now in order to create effective low-cost ads that reach the right people that you want to work with for your offer so that you're actually getting qualified leads into your funnels and making sales for people that are ready to invest in the service that you have. Hyper-specificity is the thing that everybody is talking about when it comes to creating ad copy and ad graphics and any sort of creatives that go along with your ads. So when I say hyper-specificity, it's like, who is this offer for? What are the problems they're dealing with? What are the exact words that they use? What are the things that are so specific to their situation that most other people would be like scrolling past because that has nothing to do with them? That's the kind of specificity you need to make any sort of paid advertisement work in 2026 and beyond. So if you are somebody who is using ads or wants to use ads, you have to be very, very specific about the person you're talking to in those ads. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have different personas within different ads, but each individual ad that you put out has to be hyper specific to the person that you want to attract to your business. So if you can learn how to speak really specifically, really niche to a specific type of person with a specific problem and a specific outcome that they want, it's going to make advertising, marketing, and selling and program delivery way easier for you. All right, we made it to trend number 10, and this is really more holistically looking at your business. I've been in my online business seeing clients since 2014. So we're going into year 12 of actually serving clients as a business owner. And I started my website and started working for another health business online in 2011. So, I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, I've helped a lot of people. And as my business has kind of ebbed and flowed over the last few years, especially adding children into the mix, I am just getting so obsessed with simplicity and elegance. And elegance is like, how simple can we make this and how can we make it work as well as possible with the least amount of moving parts? And looking at how do we build systems that really reduce how much manual effort we have to do to run our businesses. Those are the things I'm starting to get really obsessed with because truthfully, I have so little time and energy to do anything that's not moving the needle in my business at this point that I don't even have a choice anymore. My business has to be simple. And we've made a lot of really difficult but important decisions over the last couple years in the business to make it more simple. And I actually really feel like I still have room to grow next year when it comes to simplifying and streamlining how we run the business. So if you feel like you're reinventing the wheel every time you go to put content out, you're like coming up with a new message every time, or when you're on a sales call, every single person you talk to has a different problem and you have to like customize the offer for them, or people get into your programs and you're reinventing the wheel for different protocols, different approaches, like you have to be an expert in 8,000 different health conditions for you to help somebody. That is the most chaotic and least profitable way to run an online business in 2026. So we want to really look at how can we create systemization in the things that are repetitive. So client onboarding, content creation, client resources, any sort of workflows, any sort of team processes that are there. If something gets repeated more than once, it can be processized. And so if you can start to do that in your business, that's going to save you so much time and wasted energy that you can be then putting into the more creative and business advancing type of things that only you can do. And then where I want you to be spending your energy and your focus is really on those things that are irreplaceable. So that one-on-one coaching or group coaching where it's you and your expertise and your presence that's really creating the experience for your clients. Personalizing things, problem solving, differentiating your business in the marketplace, having an opinion, like all the things that really do require you and your brain and your personality and your perspective. That is the stuff that you should be spending the bulk of your time and energy on in your business. It should not be tech support. It should not be like, what do I talk about on social media today? Like all the things that are done on a repetitive basis should have at least some standardization so that you don't have to be thinking, what should I do with this every single time an action step comes up. Repeatable systems and simplified systems give you mental space. They help you get back your sanity. And it's actually what helps your business become more scalable. So the less effort it takes from you to run your business, the more people you can serve, the more money you can make, the more impact you can have, the more reach you can have without it just like basically killing you to be able to do all of that. Honestly, that's one of the big focuses I have with my one-on-one clients. I've worked with a few, especially moms. Like this is just a mom thing, I think, but maybe it's parents in general, higher level one-on-one clients that I work with who are just like, I have nothing left to give. I am stretched in so many different directions. My kids need me. My spouse needs me. My house needs me. My business needs me. My team needs me. My clients need me. My social media audience needs me. I put that in heavy air quotes because they have these parasocial relationships with these people who don't even know them that think they owe them something. There is all of this weight in your business when everything depends on you and you showing up with your best energy, with your best creativity. And if you have anything going on at home that demands time and attention and focus from you, like kids, I mean, for me, that's the big one. You are not going to be able to handle all of that for more than a few months, maybe a year. Like it is going to crush you and it's also going to harm your business. You are not going to have the most profitable business if you are just being torn apart left and right by all the different needs that everybody in your life has. And I'm sharing this as somebody who has had this experience recently and really has had to set some really firm boundaries because I have so much energy going out to just like feed and take care of my children that the last thing I can even tolerate at this point is a business that sucks me dry because I don't have firm boundaries. So those boundaries and being able to delegate, systematize, automate things, all of that stuff is so, so important. No matter if it's like you have a small solopreneur business or if you have a big business with a big team and you're doing 7 figures a year, like you need to look for places where you can not have to put energy into every single action step in your business. And I really think that in 2026, simplicity is no longer just a preference or a nice to have. It really is the way you're going to stay profitable without burning out on all the different moving parts that a functional, profitable business needs to have to keep growing, to keep serving clients, to keep delivering on what you're committed to when you take money from somebody, and also to keep reaching people in a way that's consistent and predictable and sustainable. Okay, so those were my predictions. I think a lot of it's going to come down to creating a transformational offer that is really highly specific to the dream ideal client who has the money to spend, and learning how to message and market that to the people who want what you have to sell, who are ready to pay for it, who just want their problem solved. They don't want to scroll Instagram for 5 hours trying to find the answer to their problem. And the more you can create simplicity and systemization in your business model and use things like AI to make things easier for you, the more money you're going to make, the easier business is going to be to run, the more fun it's going to be, and the more you can spend your time and energy focusing on the things that you really love, which for probably most of you is serving clients, whether that's in a one-on-one format, a group format, a course, whatever you're doing to have the impact you want to have on your paying customers. That's probably what lights you up the most. Maybe content creation too, but all of the stuff that lights you up should be where your time and energy is going, and all the stuff that's required for your business to operate should really be systematized and streamlined so that it's serving one core audience with one core offer, with one core problem that they have, and one core transformation. All right. I hope that that was helpful for you. I'm super excited to see how things shift in 2026. We're making some big changes, like I said, to how we approach our health. And I really think there's going to be a lot of people doing that as well. So this is a huge opportunity for you if you are a health expert, especially to be available for the people who are opting out of the more conventional approaches to medicine and healthcare and all of that, and looking for somebody who's really going to be a partner in their health and help them get the health results that they want without having to jump through insurance hoops or find out if stuff is covered or, pay thousands of dollars to their deductible to just get a service that's mediocre. I would love to hear from you what you think about this episode. So if you want to DM me on Instagram, my handle is Laura Schoenfeld RD. I would just love to hear if there's any of these trends that stood out to you or things that you're seeing that you think are going to impact the industry in 2026. I just feel like there's a lot of stuff that isn't massively different than it was before, but it's just stuff that's become more important. And then there's other things like AI that are really new that are really just going to make our lives easier if we can use them in an effective way. So I hope that this was helpful and interesting to you. And I just really appreciate you hanging out with me on this episode today. And I will look forward to seeing you here next week on the Nourished CEO podcast. See you later, everybody, and connect with me on Instagram. I can't wait to hear from you.